Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 108 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by Celozo. Today, Kris and I are really excited. We've got Brian Noonan on with us. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dustin. How are you? Hi, Kris.
Hey, Kris. Kris is doing his Instagram live intro here. But Brian, we're super excited to have you on. For anybody who's listening or watching right now that doesn't know you or hasn't seen you, they're not paying attention. You're all over YouTube. You're putting out great content. That's what Kris and I love about this Amazon community is the amount of people who are willing to just put out really good content to help other sellers out there. And you're one of them. So welcome to the show. We're excited to talk all things Amazon with you.
I appreciate that. Looking forward. We can cover as much or as little as you want. I know you'll be able to ask some really good questions, and I'm here to answer them.
Well, fantastic. Well, first question is, and take as long as you want on this, just for everybody listening and for us. I mean, we'd love to hear your story, sort of, how you got into the Amazon space. I know that you are a seller yourself, and I know you're also a YouTuber and a mentor and a coach. Just give us the story of how that all started. What were you doing before you got into your business, and then what caused you to start it, and just the journey. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, well, 3 years ago now, I started. I grew up in the hospitality industry, so doing banquets, weddings. I started bussing tables. I think when I was like 13 years old. Started serving when I was 14 or 15. Started bartending when I was 18. And just grew up in that space because my mom was a catering director and event specialist. So I worked under her, quickly moved the ranks from busser to server to bartender. Then eventually banquet manager was what I finally got to at my last job. I worked at a large local winery and a state vineyard doing weddings and corporate events and parties and functions. And I worked there for about 6 years, but it's hard work, not only dealing with drunk people at the end of the night, trying to get them out of the winery after they've been drinking all day, but on your feet from 2 or 3 in the afternoon till 2 or 3 in the morning, 5-6 days a week. So I was looking for an alternative of something that I could do. And before I started my Amazon business, even before kind of my last job, I'm a former drug addict. So I've been clean for about 6.5 years. So I found Amazon just searching videos, the standard, how to make money online kind of deal on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And came across a couple of flipping products on Amazon. They were showing how they were, going to the local store and buying products at a Goodwill or a thrift store or online at like an Overstock and buying them, getting them to their house, labeling them, listing them, shipping to Amazon, doing the online retail arbitrage method. So that's how I first got started. Started doing that, and then eventually learned about private label. Went ahead and launched my first product in baby. About 3 years ago. That product did all right. And then now I've gone on to launch 8 products myself, registered 2 trademark brands, one in home and kitchen, one in patio, lawn and garden. And I started mentoring and coaching just a few people on the side as well about 7 or 8 months ago. So I do both those now full time, business coach and mentor, and then sell my products, 8 successful products so far and 2 brands.
That's awesome. Well, we've got a lot to talk about just there. What year did you start your YouTube channel as well? And what was the reason that you decided to do that?
Okay, so started the YouTube channel about 2 years ago. That was back in about 2019, I would say 2019, probably the beginning of 2019. And I just thought, what's another way that I can provide value, that I can give back and help people in the beginning? Because I think the misconception a lot of people have with selling on Amazon is that not necessarily that it's easy to do, but certainly a lot of gurus out there, try to make it seem a lot more easy than it is. And so I thought, what can I do to provide value, to give back, to help people like myself who struggled in the beginning? And starting a YouTube channel was definitely something that I could impact the most people. And then I also, am very active on Facebook as well, providing as much value as I can on Facebook.
So let's take it back to when you started your Amazon business. You mentioned that you did retail arbitrage early on. That's something both Kris and I did when we started as well. Really felt like that's a nice low cost way to get your feet wet and understand what goes on in selling on Amazon. Do you recommend that if someone's interested in starting a private label, that first they do some retail arbitrage just to learn the system?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to learn, and not a ton of money needed to start. I think it's harder if you live outside of the US and you want to sell on the US market. So if you're located in Europe or Australia or Canada, you'll have to, go through a few extra steps like finding a 3PL or a prep center warehouse. But if you're in the US and you're just getting started, absolutely look at doing the retail online arbitrage method. It's a great way to learn about 75% actually of the stuff you need to start a private label product launch.
Yeah, I got a good question to go in. When you first heard about Amazon to the time you launched your first product, what was that timeline like? Like, how long did it take you to jump in and launch your first product?
About 6 months, which is is about 5 months too long. But the problem is,
yeah.
But the main issue I had was I guess I did have some of that fear. Like, is this truly like a a business model that I can make money in? Is it too saturated? I'll possibly lose all my money? Like, I had those kind of fears as everyone does in the beginning, of launching your first product, deciding to be an entrepreneur, go down that path. I think everybody struggles with that internal fear of losing money, disappointing your family and friends, how to deal with that kind of rejection and failure type stuff. But for me, it was the money. Like, I just didn't have the money to invest into my first private label product. Like, I started with $2,600 3 years ago to launch my first product, $2,600. And the reason it took me 6 months was, I had some of those fears and doubts about the business, but mainly it was the financial aspect of it. It took me 6 months to save that because I was living paycheck to paycheck and only making maybe like $2,000 to $3,000 a month, maybe.
Mm-hmm. But you were able to launch. That's pretty good that you were able to launch with $2,000. I mean, there's a lot of products that's not possible for sure to launch with that budget, but that's amazing right there.
Yeah, budget is definitely something. It seems like, with everything going up and with everything getting more competitive, my product price, my first product was in baby. It sold for around $20 bucks. And so my source cost was around $5 or $6 per item. And I think I ordered around 300, something like that. But you definitely can't get away a lot of the times with a lot of products anymore. Especially just, if you're a brand new seller getting into it, starting with, $2,000 is going to be cutting it really, really close.
Yeah. You really have to know you have to pick the right product. If you have anything that's remotely competitive, that's going to be difficult to launch with that budget. But there are unicorns out there. There's lots of products out there that are on the edges that you can certainly get your feet wet. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight off those products, but you're going to start selling and start making some money. For sure.
Let's get into that product research. Do you still do the same product research method that you did when you first picked your first product?
No, it's evolved. I think over the years of experience of launching products selling well and taking off, products not doing well and taking too long to sell, and you get a good understanding experience. I've always learned the best. I can read as much as I possibly can. I can watch as many videos as I possibly can. But for me, actually, like seeing how did I do, experiencing, doing it myself is the best way that I learn. And so after the years of launching products, the years of doing research, the years of, just putting in the work, to be honest, I do product research a lot differently than I first did. When I first got started, I basically just kind of looked at the extension. I used Jungle Scout way back when. I got the Chrome extension for $99 for life.
Oh, nice.
And so I got grandfathered in, and I still have that thing for 99 bucks for life. I bought it so long ago, but I just looked at that. I said, okay, what are the X-ray numbers, or what does the extension look like, and is it a good product, and try to gauge it from there. But there's so much more that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of your methods that you're doing right now for anybody listening that's trying to source? Like, what is your your overall goal? Are you still trying to launch new products with the same type of budgets, like a $2,000 product launch, or are you doing bigger product launches now? And how does the product research differ if you are trying to do a smaller budget launch versus a larger budget launch?
Well, the product price is going to be the main thing. I think product price and the average sales volume, or the average units sold per month of the main competitors, those two things are going to determine a lot about, do you have enough budget to go into this product? So price, if a product sells on Amazon for $15 or $20, yeah, you can probably order 300 to 500 units for around $2,000 to $3,000. But if the product sells on Amazon for $75 to $100, that's going to be around $5,000 to be able to order 200 to 300 units. So I think product price plays a huge role in that. I personally like to sell products that are over $30 and up. Even $50 and up would be better. And then the average sales units, units per month. How many sales are our main competitors doing there on page one in the top 30 positions, the top 20 positions on page one? How many average units are they selling per month? And do you have enough budget to compete with them and get in and order the 500 or 600 or 700 units to compete with them?
So are you looking, when you do product research, are you still using that Grandfather Jungle Scout extension right now when you do it? Are you using Helium 10 or both, or when you're looking at it? And then what are your main criteria besides that sales volume? Are you looking for a certain review count amongst your competitors, or keyword volume, search volume? What are you really looking at there?
Yeah. So product research, I think, comes down to a lot of different things. I use Helium 10 for my product research. I've switched over to Helium 10 just because I think for the value of the money you pay for the monthly platinum plan, you get so much value with all the different tools, like the follow-up email, like keyword research, which is a huge part of product research, product targeting, getting ASINs, review insights, all of that kind of stuff. And then, of course, when you do launch, you get so many other tools as well, like profits and hijacker alerts and that kind of stuff. I look at a lot of different factors when I look at product research. Reviews are certainly a part of it. A baseline that I kind of look for is like sellers on page one. Do they have around, 200, 250 reviews or under? Like, do half of them have that? Do only two have that on page one at the top? Do all of them have more than 250 reviews? That's something to consider. If all of them have, higher than 250 reviews, it could be a little bit too competitive of a market. I would say my number one factor, or my number two or three things I look at, are going to be revenue and sales. Reviews are important. And search volume, keyword search volume is important. Do the main keywords, are there several main keywords for the product? I don't like to just have one keyword that has 100,000 search volume, and the other ones, there's not like some lower, less competitive keywords I can rank for. So keywords are important. Is there enough demand for the product? Are there multiple keywords I can rank for on the product? Reviews are important. Average BSR is somewhat important. And then price point is important. Potential profit margins. And can you differentiate the product? That's super important.
You mentioned a couple of categories that you're currently in. Are there certain categories you look in, or are you just looking at all the categories and kind of going from there?
I do both. Like if I was going to launch a new product, I think if, we talked about doing the online retail arbitrage method. That's a great way to start, because a lot of the products that you'll be allowed to sell for that type of business model, the flipping the products, are going to be approval needed products in home and kitchen and dining, patio, some baby products. So those are the types of categories, like you're able to flip products with online retail arbitrage. You can look for products like that with private labels. So I think those are good categories for new sellers. They don't require approval right off the bat. But of course, maybe you do spend the time to get approval in a category like lighting or automotive. And now you've cut out 90% of the competition.
That's a good point. Yeah, those gated categories is where there's a lot less competition going on right now. And that could be some of the new frontiers for a lot of sellers coming up. How much do you try to expand on the brands that you've built? I mean, if you're doing product research, and are you focusing on trying to build out those brands right now, or if you find a product that meets all your criteria, that's in a completely different category, doesn't fit within that brand name, do you still launch that and just start a new brand right away, or do you try to build out your brand line? Is that where your focus is right now?
Yeah, build out the existing brand to start with, and the main reason for that is, my trademark is in home and kitchen. My trademark is in patio, lawn, and garden. It requires a separate. So once you trademark your brand and you start building a brand in a category, you can certainly use your brand and launch in other categories, but your trademark won't cover you unless you pay for a separate classification fee, which is like an extra, $500 or $600. So I would recommend, once you do trademark your brand, you launch a couple products, stay in the same category. You can branch out to other categories if you like and use the same brand. It's an option, but I think sticking to the category and building a solid brand in one or two categories is the best option.
And one more thing, what do you think is the number one mistake that you're seeing from people that you're working with or people you talk to when they're in the product research phase? What's the biggest mistake you're seeing?
The number one mistake I see is just thinking that you can sell the same product as everyone else. I think we often put on the blindfolds when we look at the high revenues. Like the product is making such high revenues and you're super excited. It's got strong search volume. All of the competitors on page one have low reviews and they're making crazy amounts of revenue, like this weighted hula hoop, which is actually like a patented or trademark product. So I don't recommend selling that. There's like a trademark on a certain one or a patent on a certain one, so stay away. But thinking that you can just come in there and launch the same hula hoop, but just like a different color or with a bag, or that's like the number one mistake, because with all the new competition and just, by the time you get your product launched, like we're looking now to launch a new private label product, it's honestly going to be like at least 6 to 8 weeks minimum to order samples and customize the product and find a supplier and get production going and the inspection and packaging done and shipping. And so you'll have to look out like 2 months out. What's the market going to look like then? And really, really focus on differentiating. So just trying not to just sell the same thing as everyone else.
It's so funny you mentioned that weighted hula hoop. Kris and I are working on a series right now where we're launching a product live. And transparently, it's not out yet, but we're in our product research time. That weighted hula hoop came up like in every single
it was everywhere.
Every keyword research thing we did on Helium 10, it's like weighted hula hoop. And it was like all the, and we were like, nope. There's like all the red flags are on this one right here. It's so competitive. But you're right. That's a huge mistake. It's going to cost you a fortune to try to rank in that. And then if you do, you might find out that you're violating somebody's patent down the road.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So you found a product. You've got a product you've done. You mentioned the product research. What are some sourcing area? Where do you source the product? Or where? I mean, we all know that Alibaba is the main one, but do you have any other sourcing kind of tips?
Yeah, I think, Alibaba is the world's leading manufacturing website. You can actually find suppliers there in the US. And so I would go straight to Alibaba and look. You can look at other countries like India and Vietnam. I've worked with India suppliers. They have really good cotton and fabrics and macrame type stuff. So Alibaba would be the place I would go to start reaching out to and contacting suppliers. You'll just have to, contact multiple suppliers. One tip I'll give you when you go to contact suppliers, a lot of us are too transactional. Like if we send the supplier this template, what's your price? What's your MOQ? And if they don't come back to us and tell us, yeah, here's our price, here's our MOQ. If it's not what we want, we're bouncing on to the next supplier. I actually don't even send the template as the first message. I'll open a communication or a dialogue with the person because we have to remember these are people on the other end, that are living their own life. They're working for probably a manufacturer in China. I try to connect with them. Maybe there was a recent Chinese holiday that I can ask about. How did you celebrate? What's it about? So I start a conversation with the person the supplier first, and then I'll go into like asking for information. You'll get a better price, you'll get a better MOQ, you'll get a better lead time just by taking a few extra steps like that.
That's a really good tip, actually. It's always appreciated when you start a relationship first before you start haggling on price. And they see 1 million requests a day. And so they're giving out the same thing, but something's going to stop them, and like, hey, how are you doing today? And asking questions about, like you said, the holiday. That is a great tip for anyone new. If you want to, because the same thing, you got to differentiate yourself with the supplier too, from all the other people that are asking them. So really, really good tip. So in terms of sourcing, what are some areas that you see, or some mistakes people make? Maybe too little, too much on the first order, too much time haggling when you could just order right now for a dime more and get going. I mean, what are some things that you see people get held up on with the sourcing side?
I think one of the hardest parts of sourcing is just that communication end. Like, it's just like the culture sometimes, I think, for Chinese suppliers, they don't respond as quick or as often or as much to our questions as we'd like. I think a lot of sellers get frustrated when they don't hear back from a supplier, or you send 5 questions and they only answer 1. So I think that's one challenge a lot of sellers will face when you start communicating with suppliers. I try to find the best platform that works for the both of you. And typically later in the day, like our time, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. is going to be best, because it's like their work day. So the time of day, and then the platform. Are you going to communicate on WhatsApp or WeChat? Are you going to communicate on Alibaba? Or are you going to communicate with them on email? Setting that up is going to be important. And then you just have to reach out to multiple suppliers to try to get quotes from all different ones. For suppliers that don't respond or only answer 1 question of the 10 you sent them, there's better suppliers out there. So it's just important to try to reach out to as many. And there are really high quality, good suppliers out there that are willing to work with you on your modifications and improvements. They're willing to offer MOQ, lower MOQ, and offer custom packaging. It just takes time to try to find them, communicate with them, build a relationship with them.
So moving on to the next step. Now let's say you've decided you've picked your product, you found your supplier. Now it's time to order and then start launching this product on Amazon. What are the things that you're doing to make sure that your product launch is as much of a success as it can possibly be?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So like you're in that stage right there. And what do we want to do? It sounds like, what should we be doing once we think we found a supplier? It's ready to order our product. We're getting ready to launch it. What are some things that we need to have set up to make sure that the product launch is successful?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the purchase orders from your supplier need to be as thorough and detailed as possible. Like everything down to the color code number. Because if you just say, make my product yellow, well, there's like 50 shades of yellow. So you got to get really detailed on exactly what product you're ordering, what the trade terms are, what the packaging is, what the payment terms are, what the arrangements are. And then at that point, hopefully you've already ordered a custom sample, even multiple rounds of samples if you're making major changes to the product to make sure the supplier got it right. We place the order, we set up the inspection, you've worked out your freight forwarding and shipping, you've got all that set up, your supplier is going to work on manufacturing, packaging is getting done, you've got your insert cards done that we sent to them, and then they got your box design they're working on. We set up the inspection once production is about done. And then really it's time to start working on the listing, really getting the listing ready to go. I typically don't like to make the listing more than 30 days out from when I'm going to launch. Anything over that, I think is a little bit too long. And then the shorter the amount of time you can wait, the better. But 30 days before you launch is kind of a good time frame or less. It's really just about getting your listing completely ready to go. Picture perfect, your photos done, your video if you're going to do one. Your listing copy is all filled out, optimized. Keyword research is done. You're prepared for launch, including pulling all your main keywords, your ASINs, just getting really ultra prepared for launch, and your listing is completely done. The inspection passes, and all of that.
You mentioned
product arrives. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kris. No, go ahead, Kris. You do it.
Yeah, product arrives. It takes like 30, 45 days before it actually gets to the port. It takes another 2 weeks, 3 weeks by the time it gets to Amazon, maybe even a little longer. So we're about almost 2 months in. Now we're ready to launch. What do you do next?
Okay, well, Amazon's going to receive your inventory. They're going to send you a email letting you know that your product has arrived, your shipment has arrived. At this point, you'll want to monitor your inventory levels to see how many have got checked in and your listing status. Usually I'll set like a launch date or a release date under my offer tab, under my more details tabs. There's like release date, launch date, offer start date, sales start date. Fill all those in to when the date you want to launch. Don't wait too long though after your inventory arrives and your listing goes active and available. As soon as you have like 25 to 50 units available, I would start your launch process, which includes getting reviews as fast as you can. We need a couple reviews within the first week to be able to compete. So get those reviews, couple reviews as fast as you can. And then I usually set up 2 automatic campaigns from day one. 2 automatic. One's going to be like an average bid, average budget. Let that go. The next one's going to be like a high budget, low bid campaign. That's going to go. And then as soon as I've got like 2 to 10 reviews, then I'll start all my manual campaigns. I'll probably set up a few search, find, buy campaigns through either Rebate Key or another ranking search, find, buy service. And I typically like to get around 5 to 10 search, find, buy purchases for each of the main keywords that are in my title.
And that's per day.
Yeah, around 5 per day would be great. But even if like over the next 7 to 10 days, you can get like a total of 10, that's going to really, really help you rank to page 1 the quickest.
And you're turning on PPC immediately, which, some people are on the fence, like, do you wait or do you not? What's your reasoning by turning it on, and especially 2 autos? I haven't heard that before. What's your reasoning for 2 autos and turning PPC on right away?
Yeah, I think a lot of sellers, like for PPC, they're trying to have the lowest ACoS as possible month 1, but I look at it like try to get as much data as you can month 1, and of course the sales too. But it's really like it depends on what phase you're in with PPC. The goals change, but for the launch and testing phase, I set up those 2 autos from day 1. The average kind of bids, average budget is kind of more of a sales driven campaign. Get my product out there, see if I can start making some sales, optimize after the first week. The other campaign, the high budget, low bid, is really a data collection campaign to start finding, low cost search terms and ASINs. But yeah, I set those up right from day 1. And then as soon as I've got a couple reviews, even 1 or 2, then I'll set up all my manual campaigns.
When you set up those manual campaigns, are you mining keywords out of those auto campaigns, or are you doing that in combination with doing some sort of keyword research and competitor research on Helium 10? Are you filling those manual campaigns with a lot of stuff, and how do you break those out?
Yeah, it's a little of both. I think it also depends on your product, your category, your niche. How well you differentiated the product is also important.
Mm-hmm.
How well you differentiated the product is super important, because if you differentiate your product super well, you may not have to spend so much on PPC. I've had launches where I can, barely have to spend any on PPC because I've clearly differentiated my product, made it better, and clearly marketed that. So that's a factor too. But when I set up those manuals, it's a combination, Dustin, of like looking in Cerebro, using the keywords I got from there, using the keywords I optimized my listing with for those manual campaigns, running them as 3 match types to test which one works best, but then also looking at whatever data I have from the autos.
And on those manual campaigns, when you launch them, are you aggressive with your bids early on so that you can make sure that those ads are showing for those keywords, or do you already have sort of target ACoS at this point that you're going for?
Yeah, it used to work really well, or it seems like months and months and months ago, it seemed to work better. Like we'd go higher, and like we'd set up an exact campaign with our top 3 keywords. We'd go, 30 to 50% over the suggested bid, and that would convert and work well. But it just doesn't seem to like work the best anymore. So I always suggest down only in the beginning for all your campaigns, just because you don't know which keywords or ASINs are going to work. So bidding strategy down only, and then for the bids, you really just have to test both. Go a little over, go a little under.
What about top of search multiplier? Are you using those at all during the launch phase?
During the first week or two, probably not. But after the first 2 weeks, I have some data. Absolutely.
So we're pretty far into the process now. The product's launched. You've got the campaign set up. I mean, this is pretty fun. I mean, in 30 minutes, we're trying to go through fast, like every aspect. We could take, I don't know, 6 hours on each one of these individual topics, and then still not have enough time to go over all of it. But this is great, I think, for everyone listening. If they haven't started the process, this at least should open their eyes to what's involved in the process. It's not like the gurus say that you don't see a Facebook ad with some guy in a rented Lamborghini pretending like he owns it because he launched one product and made 10 million. That doesn't happen. There's a lot of work. There's a lot goes into it. So let's just talk about the one last step. Because I want to get into you were talking about reviews, getting reviews. You use search find buys. For somebody who's listening right now that doesn't know what search find buy means, explain that and let them know how that can help them get their first couple of reviews and help them rank.
Yeah, it certainly helps with both those. A search find buy essentially means that we're sending a customer onto Amazon's platform, and we're telling this customer when they go onto Amazon to type in a keyword like weighted hula hoop. And then they've got to go page by page by page until they find our organic listing. Maybe we're on page 2. Maybe we're on page 7. Maybe we're on page 10 when we first launched. It just depends on the algorithm and Amazon's system. And then they have to find your listing and then buy it. That is a search find buy. And it really shows Amazon that, okay, here's a customer that went onto Amazon looking for a specific search term. They bypassed all of these other products on page 1, on page 2, on page 3, on page 4, and they found this product here on page 7 and bought it. That's going to boost your ranking closer to page 1, if not on page 1, if you can get enough of those. And you typically want them to be full priced sales. You don't want to do any more than like a 40% off doing that. Now, some sellers will struggle getting the search find buy purchases in the beginning, like when you're brand new, because you don't show up at all, it seems like, anywhere. So you may have to create a 2-step URL and generate a couple of sales through that 2-step URL link, but then you should show up in the search results. And so search find buy, that's what search find buy is. It works extremely well. It's not considered against TOS. It's not considered manipulation, as long as you don't make those customers that do the search find buy also leave you a review. You can't use search find buy customers who do that for you just for that plus review. It's just really, it should just be for the search find buy for the ranking. If they happen to leave a review, that's great, but you don't use it for that. And that's going to be okay for the TOS compliance, because you're allowed to promote and sell your product pretty much however you want, send external traffic to Amazon however you want, and you're fine. It's just with the reviews, you got to be careful.
How long do you wait until you kill a product and you're done with it? Like you launched it, it went well, and then all of a sudden it's dying. Like, or when do you make that decision that it's time to move on? God, I've seen such a wide range of products that maybe the launch didn't go as great as they hoped. They're selling, 1 to 5 units a day, and then 2 weeks in, only 2 weeks in, it starts taking off, or it's opposite, it goes to 0.
every product has like a life cycle when it'll sell the best. Maybe it sells best for a year. Maybe it sells really well for 2 years. Maybe it only sells well for 3 to 6 months, like that trendy hula hoop. It just depends on the product. You know, every product will have a different life cycle, how much competitors come in. I would say don't give up if maybe you've launched a product and you're maybe like 6 months in or 6 months to a year in. Sales are just kind of okay. You know, you don't understand why. Some days you make 5, some day you make 8, some days you make 0. Usually just with a little bit of a relaunch strategy, you can fix that, or at least get ranked better for some of your main keywords, and then start to get sales going again. So it just is a case-by-case basis. I would say, though, if you've been selling for more than a year and you've tried PPC, you've tried search, find, buy, you've tried, you know, ManyChat sequences, you've tried launch services and ranking services, you've tried all that and still can't break out and make any sales, it may be time for a whole new listing and a refresh, brand new start, or move on.
Yeah, I think that's a hard one for a lot of people. I mean, when you spend a lot of time, these products, they become like your children. You start loving them when you spend so much time with them, and then it's hard to drop it when it's not working. But certainly, if it's eating up all of your capital after a year and it's stifling your ability to grow in other ways, that's a really good point. It's and something that's important for everybody. I think we got to get you back on here again and do some sort of series where we break all these things down. We could put together a killer 5-part series on all the steps to launching a product, because we could really dive in. And all the stuff that you put on YouTube, the content you're putting out, I highly encourage everybody out there who's listening, they need to check you out. They need to, if they're interested in this business model or in this business model currently or frustrated right now, you've got just great stuff for them to look at that can help them on their journey. So real quick, let everybody know who's watching. How can they find your content, where you are, and how can they contact you if they'd like to work with you on the mentoring and the coaching?
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate you guys having me on the podcast today. The 2 best ways to kind of follow me or connect with me to get more value is my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Brian Noonan. And you can go over there on YouTube, and I got lots of videos there that will help you from product research like we talked about today all the way through your PPC like we covered today. So that's probably the best place. Or the second place is visit my website. It's noonanuniversity.com.
Excellent. Well, I encourage everybody who's listening to do that. They need to follow you. They need to go to your YouTube, subscribe, go to your website, and check out everything that you've got going on there. And we are definitely going to get you back on here again. I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface on all these. And I like the idea of putting together some sort of series where we walk everybody through everything. So thanks again, Brian. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been an absolute blast.
I can tell you guys are good hosts, and I'd be happy to come back anytime.
Perfect.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, we have a lot of fun. It's fun doing this business. It's a little game that you get to play, and the landscape changes all the time, and so it's fun to stay on. But it's really fun. Kris and I have had a blast since we've started this podcast and got to meet other people in the industry and really get to know them and what they're doing. I think that makes it a lot more fun. And I encourage everyone who's listening to this, start networking. If you're really getting stuck in this business, or if you're, feel like you're alone, it's lonely, start networking and reach out to people. People love to talk about this that are doing it.
Or go join Brian's group. Like go be part of a mentorship. Surround yourself with people that are doing better things than what you're doing. Because Dustin and I, we talked about before, Dustin and I, we dragged our feet, and that's a big regret we have. We wish we'd have done something a lot faster.
Oh yeah. Well, we've tried to learn our lesson, and we try to go fast now on everything, learn as much as we can. Brian, thanks again for coming on. Loved it. We appreciate it. And for everybody who's listening right now, if you love content like this, make sure you subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you're listening to us on right now. Subscribe, leave a review for us. Let us know how we're doing. To stay up to date, be notified when we have great guests like Brian on again. You can follow us on Solozo's YouTube channel, turn on notifications, Solozo's Facebook page. like the page and turn on notifications. We'll just pop up on your phone right when we go live if you got Facebook open. So you won't miss any of the content that way. Brian, thanks for coming on. Everybody, we'll be back at this again tomorrow. Have a good day. See ya.